Hello. Hey,
Actually,
Bob.
you
How you doing?
I'm very well. You should have DJ'd.
I think you're doing a great job of it, or the supporting act are doing a great job of it.
Yeah, and I unfortunately I just sit here and take the credit for it all. Welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, really good.
It's fantastic. Well, Nisha and I kind of bumped into each other. Really, I did a an event. Actually, one of my most favorite corporate events for Google, and Nishma was the big boss. So I think she was happy with it. Um,
Oh, I
uh,
loved it. I was more than happy with it. I remember telling everyone about it. It was one of my favourite things that we did.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. It was, yeah, it was a real beauty that. But anyway, not about me, it's about you. Why don't you introduce yourself to our members?
Oh, thank you very much, Mike. So, lovely to be here. I am Nishra Patel Robb. I am now known more so as the Chief Sparkle Officer of the Glitter Sphere. But and previously, I've kind of traded my hats of a decade at Google and helping Google manage its brand and reputation. And I've traded that in to help women build their brand and reputation. So I often talk about it as moving from one AI of artificial intelligence to another AI, which is authentic intelligence. And I, 30-year of corporate career, now an entrepreneurial career. And I think it's about being disruptive, mischievous, wearing a lot of glitter and sparkle, and having some fun. Why not?
Why not exactly? And I'm so jealous because we are going to talk about authentic intelligence. How do you see it as a solution and also a sanctuary for people building brands and building a personal brand with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's probably worth kind of starting with the problem and identifying that because it's what kind of led me to really be here. And I think the challenge is that we are now in a world where it's our kind of personal identity, our personal brand is something that has a greater amount of kind of credit and requirement to identify us. And I say this from a position of not just because we have the means and the social media and the ways of being able to kind of connect and learn more about each other, but actually because in a world that is going to become ever more led in terms of artificial intelligence, the whole world of work being disrupted means that, and I spent a lot of time looking at this and thinking about this in certainly my last few years at Google, both from kind of regulation of AI and also kind of application of AI in the workplace, is that, I sincerely believe that actually the way that we will think about work going forward, or the way we might determine our suitability for work, be it us choosing a role or somebody choosing us, won't necessarily be about what we do, because that might be disrupted or automated. It'll be more about who we are and how we do it and our character. And so owning your personal brand and taking charge of that to stand out and to be seen is critically important. And when I look at that, particularly for women who, we still experience globally less than 2% of investment goes to female founders. That's not even like, oh, we need to try a little bit harder. Less than 2%. It was actually 2%. It's just gone down to 1.8. It's insane. We're not making the headway we need to make in terms of women at senior roles or even the kind of parity we need. In the UK, we still have a significant pay gap in most organisations. So despite great efforts, we're not closing that gap on gender equality, which isn't necessarily about fairness. This isn't about a moral mission. This is about an economic one, because when we have more gender diverse teams and businesses, when we have more women in leadership and more female founders, we make a significant contribution to the economy and society. So this is my mission, is to say, well, what can I do to try and solve actually some of those problems around funding and success and economic creation and wealth creation for women and society more broadly? And one of the things that I identify is actually the ability to be able to stand out, to be able to take control of defining who you are and your successes, and not being sort of the humble brag on LinkedIn, but being able to be identified for all the things you do. So it's really a high impact platform that empowers individuals to rediscover their brilliance and build unapologetic personal brands. And I don't mean just a great LinkedIn profile. I mean a personal brand in its truest sense. They existed before social media. I'm sure they'll exist depending on whatever platform exists in the future. And I think it's about understanding a personal brand could be everything from accelerating a career. It could be about building a business, or it could be actually about defining how you want to reinvent. And as someone who's consistently reinvented her career, as I've done throughout my life, I liked it, as we've talked about before. I love music. So I talk about my career as a series of albums. And it's a wonderful way to kind of think about how you plan it out. So, yeah, super excited about developing the skills that this isn't just about confidence, it's really about storytelling. And it's being able to understand how to craft brilliant stories and tell them, and thereby kind of share, like, not just what you're great at. This isn't just about bragging what you're good at. It's about what you care about. It's what your values are and how you can match up and find right things. And everyone has a personal brand. It's whether you're in charge of it or not, but we all have a personal brand. And what that means is I could meet you once, Mike, and I'm going to walk away with a sense of who you are. To me, I have received your brand, who you are, and walked away with that. So if you're more consciously in control of your personal brand, you're immediately taking charge of the narrative. So without a doubt, we all have one. And then the other question I often hear, or comment I hear, is always around, well, why do I need it? I don't need a personal brand. I feel a bit embarrassed to do this. And all I would say was, we would never feel embarrassed about the fact of how we put ourselves forward. And in a world that I think is, opinions and perspectives can be so polarized, it's actually really important to kind of go, look, I stand here, not necessarily about political bias or anything else. It's actually, this is who I am. These are the values. This is the work I do. And I think far too often people are not great at telling the story about the work they do and the impact they can have. It's not about showing off. It's never about bragging, but it's about communicating. Because otherwise, how on earth am I supposed to know? I think in a world when, sometimes people are going to be competing against AI agents, the humanity we have as people and the connections we build, and it's so important for me. This is, the work that I'm doing, and why I loved what I'm doing is when I meet women and men and I work on their personal brand and I go on this journey with them. There's a lot of kind of deep reflecting initially. It's almost a little bit like therapy, but it's really good fun because you're learning something about someone. And far too often we don't recognize our own stories. So I remember meeting someone quite recently who said, I've got nothing really interesting to say. And I was like, well, I'm sure you have. You've got an incredible career. You've done this. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And he struggled to talk about his earlier childhood. He was a bit kind of, I grew up, I went to school and did that. And I rushed on, went to career. And I said, no, let's go back. What did you like doing when you were at school? What did you do? And because those things, the experiences and the way we see the world in those formative years have so much. And it's just through simple question, you can extract the most incredible stories. And they are our blueprint, our personal DNA. And it creates something unique about us. And it's lovely because how we connect, because you find the little moments of going, oh, actually, I remember you. I remember that connection. And I think that's really critical. And so it's not just a joyous thing, but the impact and the effectiveness it is. So when I've helped some women recently, they're growing their businesses because people buy people. They're going to be less enamored about the product or the trust or the messaging, but they will buy that person. And we're in a world of abundant choice, it's people that will drive those decisions. Another woman who's been able to be able to position herself for a career shift that she wanted to do because she was able to demonstrate her passion and knowledge and experience in another sector or transferable skills. Another one who's trying to shape her life as a kind of a speaker and is now able to attract more bookings. So it has real tangible impacts. It can take time, but it's a really exciting process that so far everyone I've met has loved.
Oh, brilliant. What is the difference between having a character, your personality, and your brand? Because I know a lot of friends that are fantastic socially. They are so confident socially. But the minute you take them into any sort of a career, imposter syndrome kicks in. And so their characters are strong, but I'd say that's where they're bright. So what's your take on that? I think there's kind of three of my in there.
So I think that one of the most critical things is actually that we, this sense of identity, our work identity, so I hated the phrase of bring your full self to work because it's just not a reality. People don't want to. I don't think anyone wants to bring their entire full self to work. But this idea of the identity, so I talk about this very openly. I spent the first 2/3 of my corporate career wearing a mask of some form or another. And that might have been because I felt, I needed to fit in. So you're trying to mask cultural identity. You're trying to be one of the boys because you don't want to be one of the girls. or, you're trying to fit in whatever the kind of environment is. And that's a slightly oppressive nature of workplaces, and particularly one of the challenges we have around evolving work culture. But we all carry some degree of mask and revealing identity over time, which usually comes through confidence and age, actually, because age makes you a bit more ballsy because you realize you haven't got as long to be disruptive or do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But it's about embracing that. So one of the things is that, and I see it a lot, people are incredibly confident in social environment, less so, or less themselves is how I kind of phrase it. Because it's not that they're less confident, they're just less of the person I do. And I think this is where being comfortable and agreeing with yourself, what aspect of your personality do you want to share, or your passion or your interest, and the comfort of being able to do that, because those are the two critical things. My challenge with imposter syndrome is someone who's kind of discovered it only 7 years ago and then has gone on quite a deep journey of looking at it. My problem with that is it puts the syndrome on the individual. It suggests that you're broken, whereas actually reality is it's about the environment. It's about psychological safety. It's about whether you can be comfortable to say and vulnerable to say, I don't know, or how do I do this? Or I think this is great, and a much more supportive and collaborative environment. These are the shifts we have to make to design the workplace of the future, because it's going to be expected and needed for us to get the best out of humans. But my main tips to people is to kind of say, pick one thing that you feel brave enough, confident enough to kind of take into the workplace. So I'll give you an example. For me, it was I didn't dress as authentically to what I liked wearing because I didn't feel like I could. I felt I had to conform to a much more conservative work wardrobe. The challenge is, for me, clothing and fashion is what gives me my confidence. I feel at most comfortable in being able to pick and choose the things that I feel really reflect my personality. Sometimes, if it's not something you actually physically wear, sometimes it's an action. It's about how you sign off. It's about choosing a job title to be more reflective of who you are. It's about how you might engage in a meeting, or where's your social conversation. I sometimes find people who you can be an introvert and build a personal brand. I had this wonderful young lady used to work for me who she lacked that kind of confidence to be able to kind of really share who she was. And yet she had this hugely vast kind of curious brain and things she'd share with us. And so I encouraged her to go, right, just send things like, 5 things you're really interested in each week. Yeah, send it to a few of us. And of course, because it was written in a really kind of comfortable way, and it really showed the stuff that she was naturally interested in, which immediately she discovered quite a lot of other people were also interested in. So you kind of bring down the barriers. Before long, everyone wanted to be signed up to this newsletter from her. And she's kind of gone from being someone quite meek to go, actually, it's okay that I like these kind of curious things. So I think the environment and the culture that we create around us definitely facilitates greater individuality and identity. And I think that authentic intelligence, like we know that there is so much research now that demonstrates authentic leadership is incredibly more impactful than any other form of leadership. It's not just about bracing a little bit of EQ. It's about recognizing, especially when you're going to have a workforce that's going to be part automated, part human, the way that you're going to get the best out of that is going to be about empathy and kindness, the stuff that we go, oh, does it matter? You being authentic will reflect back to your team doing so. That's how you get great work out. And these, in years to come, Mike, people will be talking about this as a given as we do now about other things.
100%. 100%. And actually, it segues quite nicely into Chris's question about, in a LinkedIn-centric business world, what are the tools and approaches should people be using to leverage a personal brand? Like, it's kind of how you show up there, but you answer that question.
Yeah, so I agree. And we are very LinkedIn centric, and I love it. Love LinkedIn. And it's important to kind of craft your following and know that's just another window, a great window for people to discover you. Podcasting is a big part of what I'm doing at Glittersphere. And this is about recognizing that the world of podcasting or video podcasting is a brilliant way to convey your personal brand. We know the impact it's had, US election and other moments around the world. That kind of long form storytelling, which is where it's quite hard to hold a mask for that entire time, and you have an opportunity to ask questions and get to know someone. It's a really great way to demonstrate your knowledge, your skills, and your personality. And so it was interesting as I was on this journey, I discovered how many women had set up a podcast, and it was their outlet. It was their way of talking about themselves. But also it's about being a guest on. So you don't have to run the podcast. It's about putting yourself out there to be a guest on these, because it's the medium and the conversation that are really powerful. And it's a really, really brilliant and effective way of doing, of kind of getting your brand out there. But I would always encourage people to think about a 360 kind of thing. LinkedIn may be one of the most significant windows into who you are, but it's then also whether it's crafting your content. You know, it might be things that you have an opinion and you like to write. It might be someone who likes to make videos, but it's also like how you turn up in person. I think, you know, we know instinctively the examples. It's the person who walks through the office who's always got time to say hello to someone, who holds the door open, who greets people with warmth and kindness, who makes an effort to remember someone's name. That's personal branding. You know, it's not about chasing followers as well. And I always say this to me, remember, there is so many little actions you can take every single day to be who you are and to show up as you are before you even embrace the kind of world of social media. You know, there's always, people have their own limits of how much they want to share and say about themselves and their lives. But the single best thing that I could do, and I get the same thing in my feedback and comments on LinkedIn or elsewhere, is people say, I love your optimism. I love the way you kind of share stories. And it's the vulnerability of sharing stuff, because what that does is, in the story you tell, is two things. One is you either go, it's not just me, or you go, great, now I understand how to do what I need to do. Yeah. It's the greatest gift.
Yeah. And it is called the quickfire round. So this is about you and culture. A book, an artist, a movie that represents you, Nishna.
Oh, God. Right. So a book. Oh, well, I hope to have had it here. And I think I have, so I want to show you it. So I'm sure you've all heard of Austin Kleon. You heard of?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Oh, God, I love his work. Simplicity about show your work and do that. I'm going to be really greedy and have two, because that is an absolute Bible. Think about how you promote and tell the story. My other fun is this wonderful man called Simon Squibb, who is modern day kind of entrepreneur, brilliant man. After making lots of money from selling his business, he decided he just wanted to help other people set up their businesses. And so he asks the question, what's your dream? He's just absolutely brilliant. Definitely worth a lot online.
I
and I'm in film. Can I say Barbie? Because I love it. And it's just a bit of very much kind of all the things I love, because it's cheeky and it's fun and it's got a great message. I think if I was a cultural moment, or if I had something that really described me and my journey culturally, I'm going to say Studio 54, because it's glamorous, it's irreverent, it was rule breaking, it was definitely quite naughty, but it's absolutely set the world on fire, which is what I hope to do.
Brilliant.
And is that enough?
Yeah, no, girl, that's plenty. I love it. Next one was brand. What a brand you admire the most and why?
So I'm going to pick two British brands. I'm being very Brit loyal here. So Burberry, not necessarily just because of its product. It does obviously do beautiful heritage product, but I think it's one of the best brands at being very true to its heritage and its storytelling. And it does a wonderful job of really recognizing the kind of diversity and breadth of British culture, particularly through their advertising and the work and the kind of craftsmanship that they've kind of delivered. And I think it's just, you know, they've weathering some storms financially and creatively. And I really hope they don't lose their way, because I think as quite an age-old brand, British brand, it's done an amazing job. My other one is actually Greggs. So I'm sorry, because your American audience aren't going to get this as much. So I was going to pick KFC, but then I was like, no, it's Greggs.
No.
Greggs is a British brand that its most famous product is a sausage roll, effectively sausage in some pastry. And the reason why I love it is it's one of those brands that, like, end to end, they are clear about their product. They know what role they play in the community, and they play a really big role in the community, because actually it's a moment of connection, support and help, sometimes in pretty tough communities as well. They're the number one sellers of coffee in the UK, which most people don't know, because all the drivers buy their coffee there, and they have lots of community projects. But their tone of voice and their style they do matches what you experience in the shop to what you see, and they are fun and irreverent and absolutely know how to nail British humour and understanding kind of consumer behaviour. So
wow,
they're quite marketing led answers, but they're ones I love. And I do love the sausage. I love a sausage roll and a vegan sausage roll.
I love it, and the role they play. I saw the pun there as well. Yeah. You got a quick fire of the next three. Okay. So well-being or just general mental health. Or what do you do?
My main thing has got to be listening to a lot of podcasts and walking. Best way for me to get my creative brain going, and it creates breaks in the day.
One piece of tech.
Do you know what? At the moment, Notion is an app just because it's trying to help organize my world.
Nice.
I love a lot of AI, but yeah, Notion and Notebook LM would be my two favorites.
Nice, like it. And this will be a hard one to do quickly, but one meaningful collaboration or connection.
Other than this one,
Oh, I'll take that. I'll take that.
that one.
Don't go any further. There you go. No. I'm holding you to that.
Oh,
We are to hear it. Oh, that's amazing. Nishva, it was fantastic. I could have gone on for hours, obviously. It's so great to reconnect with you after so long. And good luck in what you're doing. We're in this together. We're going to make it work. I think what you're doing is fantastic. I've learned so much from this, and hopefully everybody else has. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. Bye.
Oh, shit, it's fine.